All right, I'm going to start recording here just so that in case it goes down, I got something to post later. All right, we're going to look at a couple of things. I've got the Ender 2 out, so that's a little smaller. It doesn't cost any less than the Ender. Where's my camera? There it is. It doesn't cost any less than the Ender 3 that we've been looking at, but it has a few upgrades, so we're going to look at that. We're going to look at an enclosure. I don't know how well I'll be able to set it up here. It's kind of big, but we'll look at it and so you can kind of see the quality of it. If you want to enclose your printer, but you don't want to like build something. Then we got some more filament samples. I finally got the TPU to print. I think I figured out what was going on with that. So let's look at our filament samples first. So let's see if I can find our camera. There we go. So printed this little guy. That one is Iron Field from Proto Pasta. I didn't weigh it. It is heavier than the ones that typical PLA prints. So it is noticeably heavier. I'm not sure it's quite as heavy as the others, but the thing they say about this one, and I need to try it. I haven't actually tried it, but it says it responds to magnets. I don't know if I have a single magnet up here anywhere that I could easily get to. If I can think of where I might have one, we'll see. But it says it's ferromagnetic, so that's kind of interesting. And it also says that it will patina, like it'll rust. So I need to spray some water on it and see if it rusts, I guess. Um, so that's interesting. And it came out really well. Again, this was printed with the zero point 0.6 nozzle, 0.3 millimeter layer height, what regular temperature. This is a PLA, so it's 200, 205, something like that. Um, Cooling. Now this one definitely does say abrasive hardened nozzle advised, which we're using the hardened nozzle on that printer. Um, and it came out really nice. I wish I could think of something over here that might have a magnet in it. If I can, I'll glance around and see if I can find something that reminds me that, oh yeah, that's got a magnet. I'll come back to it. So we'll put that on the side. That was that. Then I printed this one just for, I don't know, just because I had it. It's pink. Now it's going to be hard to pick up. It's actually, it did get one really strong, like, I guess it had, you can even see it on the outside. I guess it had some sort of, see if we can make it not quite so bright over there. Well, this one doesn't have the exposure on it. Anyway, it had one sort of, I don't know, really bad string inside there, maybe a glob on the nozzle or something. But this is PETG, translucent pink with sparkles. The sparkles are kind of hard to pick up in person. You can see them. I think you might can actually see them better on the video than in person. Looks like, looking at my video anyway. So it printed really well. Same deal. It did print a little hotter. 230, I think is what I printed it at. It says to put the bed temperature up to anywhere from room to 90 degrees. So that's a really wide range. I probably left it the same as what it had been. Um, let's see. I think by this time I had switched back to the glass bed. I had been printing on the back side of the bed that comes with the Ender. The only problem I ran into, stuff stuck to it really well, so that was good. The problem I kept running into is that it wouldn't stay flat on the bed, like it wanted to warp different directions. So I needed to get a whole bunch of the little clips all the way around it to keep it flat. So I eventually took it off of there and went back to the glass bed just to make sure it stays flat. Um, but on these PETG prints, um, there's not a real secret to them. A lot of people, and maybe this was the early days of PETG, but they claimed that they were difficult to print PETG, but it's actually not. It's a little bit hotter. So this one, you can see it there in the background. It can go all the way up to 245, but it'll print down at 205. I printed this probably at 230, which is safe for Ender 3. That's an okay printing temperature for Ender 3. I didn't have the bed up at 90, although the Ender 3 bed will go to 90. That 90 is about the maximum that the Ender 3 will do. And The only other thing is that you don't cool them a lot. So I usually run the fan at 50%, 0 for the first layer, 33% for the second layer, and 50% from there on out. And they print just fine. Now, again, I'm printing with a little bit larger nozzle, the 0.6 millimeter nozzle. Maybe that affects them PETG in a way. But I don't know. I've never actually had problems with the point 0.4 either. And I like PETG because it doesn't smell bad when you print it. It has a little bit higher glass transition temperature, so it can withstand a little bit more heat before it deforms. And it's a little bit tougher, not necessarily stronger. Like its tensile strength probably isn't stronger than PLA, but overall, like if you know the stress strain curve for a material, the area under that curve I think is a little bit larger. I need to actually run that experiment, I suppose. I think that area is a little bit larger for PETG. I printed that just because I had it. There's nothing particularly special about it. Let's see what else. And I printed one other thing. Oh, I um, finally got the uh, flexible material. Oh no, this is the new flexible material. This is the let's see, it's that flexible PLA. Let me see if I can find the list for it so we can look at it. It has a company name that I had not heard of. I'm looking on Amazon here, see if I can find it again, because I don't actually remember the name of it. It started with an A. Basically, this stuff, here it is. This stuff looks and acts pretty much like TPU. Like it prints at a lower temperature though. In fact, a higher temperature made it work worse. So you get the roll of it. Now I will say that the um, the company here, what is it? A, Ataraxia, whatever that is, art. Um, it was a nice package. So the one downside is that actually you can see it in this picture. They're not falsely advertising. That's about how the spool comes rolled up. You know, it's not one of those where it's super nice and uniform um, loops around the spool. It didn't tangle or anything, but you know, I just like it when they take more time to make sure it is spooled up uniformly. It was a little messy looking, but it printed fine. At least the amount I printed. This is the color I got. I got this red one. The other thing, I was going to see, yeah, all of these look like they come with this. So in the background of this picture, you see the little resealable bag. It comes with this. Not going to fit on the camera, but let's see if we can look at it. Actually, might fit on this camera. It comes with this resealable bag. So, and it's not just a big Ziploc. It's actually a really thick plastic, and it has a port on it so that you can go in and if you have a vacuum, you can vacuum seal this material. And it worked pretty well. I don't have it in there right now because it's still on the printer, but it worked, and it held the seal on it for at least for a day. You know, I only had it on a day, and then I had to take it out to print with it. So I'll seal it back up and see, you know, will it hold that seal for a while. But here's the material right here, this little guy. And it's, you know, it's completely flexible. It's not rubbery necessarily. And again, this is just a thin one wall print. You can kind of see some strings down in there. I basically turned retraction completely off. I tried printing it just like I printed that other TPU, or tried to print that other TPU stuff on the Ender 3 that I was using. Couldn't get it to print at all, and I think the issue with that printer is we changed out the hot end on that one to an all metal hot end. And I think the inside of that all metal is not as smooth as, you know, a Bowden tube, or even a printer that had maybe direct drive, but it's not all metal. It has the liner inside the tube and that Teflon in there. I think the all metal hot ends just have trouble. I couldn't get it to print for anything on the all metal setup that we had. Even the direct drive, I can't think of what. Oh, the Bondtech DDX. I just couldn't I could get it to squirt out filament, but it didn't look very good. This actually was on that IDEX printer, the JG Maker Artist D, and it printed first try, no problems. It was, well, one problem. Um, and it's not the printer's problem, it's the slicing. So you can kind of see, well, it's probably a combination of the slicing and the printer, but you can see right in the, can you even see that? I don't know if you can see that or not. I can't make it focus on the right part. Um, and it's small. But in these really sharp corners, you can see there's a sharp corner there. Those did not do well. They have little gaps in them. So I probably need to go in and tune some of the, not retraction, but coasting type of settings. I used Idea Maker to slice this, and I probably should have used another one, but I had been using Idea Maker for that Artist D printer. Um, but other than that, it printed just fine. As long as the transitions weren't super sharp. All the sharp corners, it kind of leaves a little gap in there, which I need to go in and see if something like coasting is on, or something in there that's causing it to have these gaps. But it printed much better. I also printed a little shoe out of it, a small one, obviously. I found this model on Thingiverse just to see, because the retraction's completely off on that slicer profile. And it's it's flexible. It's flexible. It's pretty rigid though. Um, and I didn't think about it, but red never shows up very well on camera, does it? Should have got a different color. It's always kind of orange looking and washed out. But I don't think these would be wearable, assuming they were the right size. These are obviously too small, but um, I don't think this particular thing would be wearable. But this is also, this pattern in here was generated using Topology, that program that we looked at a couple of weeks ago, that does the math-based geometry. This was created with that. I found it on Thingiverse, and it does flex. It doesn't fall apart, and it's probably a little more rigid. This is supposed to be, I think, 89A shore hardness, and I think it's probably a little bit, maybe too stiff. You can modify the flexibility of TPU and flexible PLA prints by reducing the number of walls, changing the infill pattern. So these don't have, well, this has no infill, this one, because it's just one wall. This one has very little infill, but it could probably have a little bit different number of walls and be a little more flexible. So it came out, worked fine. This was a 3-hour print. It's got lots of little gaps in it that they're not perfect, but for zero tuning, they are pretty good. Got a little tread on the bottom. So I think this flexible PLA is pretty good. It prints at a lower temperature, 200, I think was its maximum listed, maybe 205 was the maximum listed to print it with. And other than that, you print it pretty much like PLA. I need to go back and try to print some of those TPU samples on the same Artist D printer and see if that was the issue. I did dry them. I did get the dryer dehydrator in. I didn't bring that roll. It works well. I don't have a way to measure moisture content, and I really want to use it for the annealing anyway. But if it can dry also, then that's going to be good. I did run into one problem. It doesn't have a whole lot of area volume, I guess, internal to it. And when you put a roll of filament in there, the spool holder, the actual spool itself, not the filament, gets close enough to the heating elements that it melts. It deforms. So I got to figure out how to keep the spool from deforming without unrolling the entire roll of filament just to dry it. That would be not ideal. So I got to figure that out. But it did seem to work. There is one downside. The dehydrate function on it is not adjustable. The time is adjustable, but the temperature is hard coded into the machine at 150 degrees Fahrenheit, which is good, but you can't change that. You can only change the amount of time that it stays on. because normally when you're dehydrating these rolls of filament, it's going to be 5 hours or so. And so you can change the time, but not the temperature. I haven't done the annealing part yet. You can change the temperature on the cooking parts of it, but it does have a specific dehydrate function. I don't know that it's any different from any of the other functions though, other than it locks the temperature at 150. But that's not in this room, so we'll look at that one some other time. What else have I done? Oh, this. So this guy came in. The e-vacuum kit. This is the $20 got a little hand pump here, and I think 10 of the vacuum seal bags. This came in maybe Friday, and I sealed up these. So these were sealed. It also comes with little packs of desiccant. These were sealed on Friday, and this is Monday, so they've been a weekend and a few hours, and they haven't lost any seal. There's the little port up there. It's, I don't know. It's for $20 if it's going to hold the seal. This is 15% carbon fiber reinforced nylon. PA is nylon, polyamide or amide. I'm not sure exactly the pronunciation, but PA is nylon. So this stuff is very hygroscopic, and it will soak up moisture and become brittle way too fast. So you do need to keep it sealed away. So if it'll do that for $20, then that's worth it. These rolls are, $100 roll. Well, this is a half roll, but they're $100 a kilogram typically, somewhere in that range. So you don't want to go wasting those. Here's one of the bigger ones that's been used a little bit. It's still holding its vacuum. It looks like it could be a little bit more pumped. I don't remember if I pumped this one completely like I did that other one or not. But throw a little bag of desiccant in there and vacuum seal it, and I think it will certainly help keep these rolls alive a lot longer. Right now I'm going through them pretty fast, but if any leftovers I want to be able to save. So a little pump, all you do, here's a bag, kind of like this size bag, so it'll fit pretty much any roll. Maybe, I don't think 2 rolls would fit in there. I think 2 would be too much, but you put your roll in there, and then this is just a little valve, and you put this on there and pump away, and it will suck the air out. It's it's a manual process. The other one, the one from the Ataraxia filament, the flexible PLA, that one does not work with one of these. Oh, calm down. Doesn't work with one of these. It works with a vacuum cleaner. So you need a vacuum cleaner with a hose on it to make those work. So far this works well. I also vacuum sealed some of the little samples of TPU. TPU is another filament that can be affected by moisture pretty badly. So I also vacuum sealed up some of those little sample rolls, and they are very tightly sealed right now. So that looks good. You can see the ender 2 back here. There it is. So let's see if we can get a scale on how well. Here's one of these little guys on it. So much smaller print bed. I think it's, well, let's measure. Is 160 by 160 by 160, I assume, in the height. Actually, the height might go a little bit more than 160. Maybe not. So it is a smaller printer. That's 6-ish, 6¼ inches cube, more or less, or 160 millimeters cube. That's probably, for most things that most people are going to print, that's probably a good size. Let's see if we can find the ender 2, what it's going for these days. Oh, it didn't type. Hold up. Ender 2. Here they are. 175 is the current price for these guys. 6.5. 6.5 is the very edge. I don't think you could print right up to the edge, but that's what it says anyway. This is actually pretty new. I got it January 27th. That is not a touch screen on it. It is a don't think it's color. It's a nice screen, but it's not touchscreen. Um, it's got a pretty decent setup. It's still using the V slot stuff. It's I think maybe 5 screws to put it together. You basically bolt that upright piece on. You bolt the handle on the top, and then I think you bolt this spool rack on, and that's about it. So I thought we would turn it on and load some filament, and I don't know. So I might have to build a profile over here. I don't think I've. Let's see if I can get Cura going. I don't think I've ever printed with it on this printer or on this computer. So we'll load up Cura over here and see what it does. Let's see. It's got a kind of loud fan, but not. Let's see if we can make the screen not glare. See, it's a regular screen, nothing fancy on the screen, or nothing special about the screen. The little spool holder kind of folds out of the way over here, so that's nice. We're going to print this. Here's a sample PLA. This is Jesse PLA. That's Printed Solids brand. I think Jesse was the dog one of the owners or people associated with Printed Solid. I think that was their dog. Oh, something fell out. Oh, just a little sample. Let's see. So this looks like it says prints at 200 to 240. The bed temperature room to 60, speed 30 to 90. So it looks pretty, regular PLA printing temperatures. I am going to need some sort of clipper to clip the end of this stuff. Let's see. All right, I had to get some of these. Let's clip the end. Okay, and see if we can back up so you can. There we go. I don't have this is just going to be loose on the roll here, so it's just going to hang over here, and then it is a Bowden tube, so we're going to have to. It looks like there might actually be some filament in it. Let's heat it up. Oh, not motion, temperature. Preheat PLA. Let it do its thing there. Yeah, there's some filament inside there, so that's going to be a little bit tricky to get out because it's chopped off right at the end. Let's see if we can get it out of there. These are always difficult to pull. I'm trying to get the Bowden tube out up here. Oh, I know what we can try. If I can find something to try with. This is not the right tool for this, but what we're going to use. There we go. Yeah, it's got some blue filament in there. Not quite heated up enough yet, though. Sometimes if you have trouble up here with the feeder mechanism, you can take this guy off. That'll help feed filament into it. Sometimes it gets hung on the little lip inside there. And in this case, we're going to use it to get filament out. But it's still got to heat up a little bit more. So the fan on this one is definitely noticeable. I can hear it. It's not horrible. And I'm kind of getting used to the fan on that JG Maker also, but this is quieter than that one was. So there we go with that. Let's feed in some new filament. So see, it's all curled up. You straighten it out a little bit, then that'll get it in there a little better. this one might work better if it doesn't have a point on it because of the way it's trying to go through the slot here. There we go. So we can just put this guy on and feed it through. Alright, so there's some red coming out, so that should work. This one has tiny little SD card. That means I'm going to need an adapter. That might be a problem because I don't know if I have an adapter here. Maybe we can't actually print on it. Where might I have one? Well, I don't know that I have a little adapter. I wonder if this computer has one on it itself. Sometimes they do. This one, I don't think does. Yeah, I think it's got any that small on it. Oh, no, that's a regular SD size. I need one of the adapters, which I don't think I have here. Well, there's probably a file on here, but I have no idea what it's going to be. Let's see. See what we got on here. Print from card. Test print for something. Yeah. Oh no, we're going to do the test print. And it says PLA on it, so we're going to print that. And that actually says for Jesse there. So I think I might have already printed something out of this particular filament. So we'll just print whatever's on the SD card. I actually think it's going to be one of these little test print deals. I think I made it in Tinkercad. Silent drivers. So really the only sound you get are the fans. So it does not do a bed probe, so who knows if this thing is level at all, but we'll see what happens when we print. I also didn't clean the bed off, which it's just been sitting there since probably February. Let's let it. And that looks good. That's another good thing about the smaller beds is that they don't have a lot of unevenness to them because they're smaller. So you don't have to do a whole lot of manipulating. It does look like this corner is a little bit low. I'm going to raise it up. It has four tiny little, yeah, you can kind of see the edge of one of them over there. Tiny little screws to adjust the bed. This side seems low, so I'm loosening these so that it raises the bed up a little bit. Actually, this one seems a little low too. Actually, they all, so probably the Z stop triggered a little bit differently because everything seems a little low. I'm going to do a little bit more. And this is, don't be afraid to look at the first print. That's one of the main reasons I do the skirt around it, is to give me a little bit more time to do those little fine tweaks on there to try and adjust the thing. So that's kind of looks like it is going to be one of these prints. I built this a while back in Tinkercad just to do a little overhang, protruding, and an inset part, some bridging, and just a curve over here. So it's a really quick uh, sample to do a bridge, and can it accurately reproduce internal and external parts, and a little, I think that's probably a 45-degree overhang on that piece, without taking too long to print. So it's not a very sophisticated tool, but I mean, it gives you a little bit of what you want to know on these samples without, I think it probably prints in 15 minutes. It says it's 11% done now, so it's not a very long print. I don't know if we want to sit there and watch that, though. We'll leave it going in the background. Still haven't thought of where I might have a magnet for this, checking out if this material actually is magnetic. It won't sit up there. Yeah, I just don't know where there's going to be one sitting around on here. Easy to get to. All right, let's clear off some room here and see if we can look at this enclosure. So that's it rattling around. All right, so it's a SaneSmart. Let's find it so we can show you what it looks like. It's this one. Oops, keep moving your camera over there. I don't know if this is, alternate items, so I don't know if it's out of, yeah, it looks like maybe this particular one is not available. Let's look at an alternate one. These all look basically the same. This one says it's fireproof. That's kind of interesting. Let's look at that one. They're all about the same. This one looks exactly the same without the SaneSmart coloring on it. But they're, let's see, let's go over here. There's nothing looking on the Ender 2 right now. So this is kind of what we're going to look at. I'll try to build it. It's pretty big, actually. You can fit an entire Ender 3, I say Ender 3 inside there. You can fit the whole thing, spool and everything inside the container. Sometimes I put the filament spool inside there, and sometimes I don't. You actually have these little access panels on the sides where you can run cables or filament from the side or the top even. I think there's an access thing on the top. But the idea here is that you use the heated bed, is going to generate some heat, and you just put the whole printer inside this enclosure. It will help with capturing any fumes. So if you're trying to, reduce some smell issues, then it'll do that. But it also heat that chamber, some. It'll heat. I didn't put a thermometer in there and try to measure the temperature chamber or the chamber temperature, but it's not actively heated other than the bed itself. The downside is that if you get too hot in there, then you're on all of these printers. Oops, those are the pieces of it. All these printers, the electronics are also in there. The control board and everything is also inside the chamber. So a lot of the printers that have enclosures that are, actively heated or whatever, they have to move the electronics outside of the heat zone because you can get too much heat in there for electronics. So I have not had that problem with these things just running off the bed heater. Now, if you put another little heater inside there, you might start to get to the point to where you might have electronics issues, overheating. So why you would do this, like I said, it does help with fumes in general. So if you exhaust this thing outside or whatever, you're gonna collect everything in the chamber and exhaust outside, that'll help with fumes. Usually what you're doing though is you do want a little bit of a heated chamber because you're trying to print something that's going to warp on you. I have right here. I have a good example of some ABS that did not go well. So let's look at this. This is a big part, and this is the type of part that typically fails with warping. So here, see that crack? It's blurry, I know. Look at it over here. they crack. That's just from warping and uneven cooling. So this one was even in a heated chamber, but this is ABS, and it did not. There's several places in there where I don't know if you can see that one. There's another crack there. There's like several cracks over here, all along the edge. But what's happening with some of these materials, particularly ABS is one of them, is that you put down a layer, it's hot, and then you put down another layer. Notice the bottom layers, well, they peeled up from the bed. That's an adhesion issue, but the bottom layers don't mostly are stuck together pretty well because they're right on the heated bed. So they're getting a steady supply of heat, radiant heat off from the bed from them. I guess some conductive heat too. I don't know how conductive ABS is, but mostly radiant from the bed. But the further away you get from the bed, if the chamber itself is not actively heated or heated in any way, then you're probably going to end up with this shape. So where you've got a skinny wall, a tall wall like that is probably going to delaminate, warp to the point to where you put those hot layers down, they start cooling, and then you put another layer that's warm on top of them. So when they're warm, they're very pliable, very flexible. But when they start to cool, they recrystallize and they shrink just a little bit. ABS shrinks to the point that it will adhere to the layers beneath it and then pull them up like this, and they won't laminate together. They'll delaminate. So that's another reason that you probably are interested in an enclosure if you're printing one of these materials that really is bad about that kind of differential cooling that causes warping. And so that enclosure kind of keeps the whole environment warm so that everything stays not molten, but not completely cooled either. And so you can put everything in one of these enclosures. So those are the two reasons you probably would think about putting an enclosure. People make enclosures out of everything. So you can get some bags and put them over the top of your printer, and now it's enclosed. And that doesn't give you any of the, now this says fireproof. I don't think they would completely just put fireproof on there if they didn't mean fireproof. There's the difference, fire resistant and fireproof. This one says fireproof. I don't know. I don't know the difference in their small and large size. Oh, the large is really big. The small is the size that we're looking at here once we finish our little test print. I believe. Yeah, you can put the Ender 3 in the small size, it looks like. $60, if you think about trying to build one, maybe some rigid enclosed acrylic and all this kind of stuff, it's going to be $60 or more, way more if you're doing acrylic and extruded aluminum pieces. It's going to be a good bit more. If you do wood, then okay, it's probably cheaper. You do have to worry with the fire resistant issues. Dust proof, yeah, okay. I mean, again, is it completely dust proof? Probably close. I wouldn't say that it's like a clean room though. Warm enclosure, so it isn't actively heated. Like I said, it only uses the bed heat. So let's see where we're at. Got a few more minutes left on our little sample. We could speed it up possibly. So let's look at our printer. It's printing pretty well. So it's going over here. Over here on your screen, that FR, that's your feed rate. You can usually, let's see if this is one of them. Yeah, so you can just turn this knob and there it goes. You can go into the tuning menu over here also, but now I'm at 110 and it will increase everything 10% so that you're printing 10% faster. You also, if you click on here, you do have a tuning menu where you can go in and change speed independently of all the other flow variables, nozzle temperature. If you do get printing faster, then there's a chance you also need to increase the printing temperature, right? So I'm going to bump it up because you want to continue to be able to melt a larger volume of plastic now per second. Fan speed's already at 100. There's the baby step X, Y, and Z. I've never seen really one that had baby step X and Y where you can shift over X and Y. Maybe if you had a layer shift or something, I don't know.